Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my sketchbook. I'm kind of at this a little later than I normally am in the morning. This morning, of course, is May the 6th. It's a day that I prefer to use as a reference of source to Star Wars once again, and just because the 6th day sounds a lot more like Sith rather than use like Cinco de Mayo. So we're going to try to draw something for fun, but to use as a reference in my brain. I'm going to use this empty tube from bathroom tissue. And from this, we're going to figure out drawing a TIE fighter. I know that sounds weird. The reason why I want to use this as a reference in my brain would be, well, the wings of the TIE fighter need to be kind of represented in a way of three-dimensional space in my brain. So let's try to figure something out. And to do that, I already have my inkwell opened here. I'm going to flip this around so that I'm using the bottom part of the page. Grab a pen. I'm going to set that there for a moment. Where am I going to set it? Yeah, I'll set it over here. Okay. So let's start with creating kind of like a 3D space. Let's say coming this way. Zoom in just a little bit here too. That's not the best zoom in I've ever done. How about there? Okay. So this is roughly the tube, right? I know that this part of the wing that would be on the inside is going to stick out further than this side. So let's see if I can kind of get some part of that. Now that's just a scribble that I did. Zoom in a little bit further on that. Of our toilet paper TIE fighter. My understanding, and maybe this is just silliness, I suppose, the TIE fighter itself is kind of based on looking like more like a bow tie, I suppose. Now, of course, you would have had some people sitting around going, well, we got to make, like, I don't know, an acronym out of this or whatever. So it's called the twin ion engine fighter. Kind of like if you know NASA or scuba, you know, you got to have like a word or make up a word that also represents what the thing is. And I just get a kick out of that kind of stuff. So that's one sort of TIE fighter that I have here. I know that may not look super duper awesome. This is where the pilot would sit inside there. And then you can, like, you know, change the way that looks just a little bit. Let's try another version of that. So this time focusing more so on this outer wing. I'm going to change the angle just a little bit more in my head. I'll let this look a little bit more like an interceptor. Maybe we'll sharpen that just enough. Of course, the pilot sits inside here. And remember, the inside one would extend just a little bit further. Maybe we can have it so that it's offset just a little bit too. These are almost like solar panels, you know? I know this probably looks pretty messy, but it's the idea that I'm kind of playing around with. So now we're going to try to focus a little bit more on changing another sort of angle. So let's tighten out the wings just a little bit so they're not as long, so that we can see more of the place where the pilot would sit. So slightly smaller towards the back. Like that, let's say. And then this inside wing, let's put about there. And then, although we're not really going to see this, but I'm putting it in there just for my own kind of like reference sake. Okay. Some of those angles would probably change a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so that would be kind of more the outside wing. This is more the inside wing when looking at this tube. As you can see, this part here curves towards the inside. This part here curves towards the inside there. So, and then pilot sits in here. A strange eyeball. So the Darth Vader's ship is a TIE fighter, but his is a little bit special. His has the ability to go longer ranges, and somehow has a hyperdrive as well. And I mean, he's a lot machine, technically speaking, but he's probably the greatest pilot, if not of all time, but I mean, he's exceptional. He's an exceptional pilot. If you've seen the pod racer scene in The Phantom Menace, as a kid, he was exceptional as well. And you can have to imagine that as he got older and more enveloped into the machine, he probably got better still than when he was a kid. In that movie, for whatever reason, they chose to give us some sort of explanation to force sensitivity and its practitioners. And that was the introduction of something called the midichlorian count. And that was a funny thing because I don't know if that was necessary, but I think giving a sort of a technical sort of glance at something like that, I don't know if that, I don't think it ruins anything, but it just seemed kind of strange for that to exist, because if they could just test for those sensitivities, it was a little bit strange. So anyway, Darth Vader's TIE fighter is called the Advanced X1, I believe. So we're going to try to draw this again, and then we're going to try to make it a little bit better. So that's sort of like 3 ways of looking at TIE fighters. Now, I think they're mainly used as like short range things. I'm going to back this out a little bit again here. They're not meant to really stray far from the star ships and where they dock. So, yeah. Okay. Well, with this one, even though I know I talked about the outside wings, I'm going to try to draw a little bit more of the inside to start this time around, and I'm just going to rough in where the pilot would sit. So this is just sketching. And we're going to have it so that it's maybe moving this way. I'm going to zoom in again. Yeah. All right. Which means that the iris of the eyeball is going to be shifted a little bit. This kind of reminds me of something else. If it was smaller and maybe above the hemisphere, it would look a little bit more like a Death Star. Something that popped into my head there regarding the Death Star. When Luke blows up the Death Star, you know, like it's a big celebration thing. And it's really, you know, what gets him a lot of the accolades from the rebellion. It's also something to sort of pause and think about, because on board the Death Star would have been something like, I would say 2 million people, many of whom probably didn't know that. I mean, I'm sure they had hints towards it, but maybe they thought it was more about, like, you know, having some kind of control. Anyway, I don't know if they knew they were kind of on the bad side of things. Maybe I'm wrong in thinking so. But yeah, so 2 million, probably more than 2 million lives were lost with Luke's dedicated shot. You know, as if he was shooting, what was it, womp rats? So that's a really strange thing to just sort of put into a movie. You know, and I think, you know, we all kind of cheered, but it was kind of it's a solemn thing to think of that many lives lost. So again, I'm kind of like creating some kind of 3D effect here. Now maybe I could have made this a little bit. No, that doesn't matter. Oh, that was Neville in the background there. Now we're going to go over here now. And we're going to go probably out quite a bit further. Again, we're looking down kind of like a tube. Hmm. So it's roughly the idea that I have going on, and then maybe we can kind of clean this up a little bit because some parts of this is looking a little wonky. Yesterday I drew a picture of Conan O'Brien as an Ewok, and they kind of look at Ewoks a little bit differently, I think, and I think the older I get, the more I kind of look at them a little bit differently too. Although I think they're treated as if they are in some ways primitive, they're also very innovative, and they're also opportunistically inclined meat eaters. So cute little teddy bears, sure, but they might actually eat you, which is kind of interesting. Maybe more so to me. I don't know. But I think there's some like scenes where you get to see them dancing around fire. And maybe, just maybe, you get to see, well, you'd have to assume the helmets are empty, I guess. They may not have just been openly snacking. But I mean, yeah. Meals, I suppose. So again, we're going to create some sort of like, not a perfect grid pattern or anything like that. So what can I say about the Sith now, since it's May the 6th, or 6th? Well, I think in fandom, you'll have people that kind of lean towards how cool the characters look in the dark side, I guess. Sort of like if you're into Harry Potter, there are some people that would kind of lean towards being sorted into Slytherin. And you can't assume, much like at the end of those movies when Harry is bringing his kid to the platform, and the kid doesn't really want to be sorted into Slytherin. Anyway, you kind of have a choice. And that being said, you kind of have a choice with the dark side in Star Wars. but anyway, so people actually do have a favor of the characters. So like Darth Vader just looks cool. But when you think of the destruction that the Empire brought about, now you can also technically say, yeah, didn't they destroy the first and second Death Stars, resulting in millions of lives lost? Well, I guess technically you're not wrong about that, but It's still pretty wild, though. Yeah, they do make the characters look pretty cool. I'm not really sure about this stuff here because right now at this point I'm kind of drawing from memory. I don't remember exactly what the advanced X1 really looks like. So I'm just adding like thingamabobs and really whatever stuff. So today is probably going to be the last bit of Star Wars stuff that I'll do. Just for fun. For the revenge of the Sixth. As I say, which suits me slightly better. And I kind of cross the hatch marks a little bit there. And maybe kind of move some of these along a little bit further. Now, for some reason, the bad boys are like beloved. And I talked about this before too, and how I don't think Darth Vader really is redeemable. I think he's been kind of a miserable individual. I believe he lived to the ripe old age of maybe 42 or 43. Something like that. So if you know for sure, put that in the comments. I didn't look it up. I do know a little bit about Star Wars stuff, but you know, I'm playing around with my memory here, and I'm not following a script. Right now, I'm just doing some little touch-up detailing things for something that I don't really know for sure looks like this. I'm just, for my own sake, outlining a couple of things. I suppose Kieran, you could probably let me know. I do know people that are tuned in. And that way it saves me from having to go to a search engine like Google and look it up, because, yeah, I have people in my life that know this stuff. I'm going to give a little bit more detail to this part of the eye. I do remember these markings kind of down here. That's kind of it. All right. So if you've been here before, thank you very much for hanging out. Feel free to subscribe. I will always say this part too, you don't have to put on notifications, because pretty much every weekday I do a drawing, and you don't necessarily need to have a notification to come hang out with me. If you feel like it, come on back. It's cool if you do. Thank you for watching some of the long form videos, which I do in real time. And they're messy, yeah, and they're just kind of fun things to do in my sketchbook. So comment. If you comment, that's cool too. Do your best to remember that, be kind to each other. I do these doodles mainly for my nieces and nephews, so it's not necessary to have a lot of curse words, please. So again, for that sort of respectfulness, thank you very much in advance. I think this is it. I think that's enough detail to put in to that. And we shall say up here that this is the advanced. I don't know if it, we'll just say it's the X1. I think that probably suits us. X1. Down here we're going to say twin ion engine. I'm just trying to think if it should be, we say there's two, but since you already know there's two, we'll just leave it like that rather than put an S at the end. All right. That's it. Have a wonderful day. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. Ciao for now.